I did a very slightly change of my hair, but I feel like I don't recognize myself anymore. Hi there, it's Meonicorn. Today's video is actually inspired by two things. One is the other day my friend asked me, are you afraid of aging? The other thing is one day I just casually wasting my time online and I came across this comment on a female celebrity's appearance. It's saying like, oh, she doesn't look as good as herself when in 2007. What happened to her? And I was wondering, that's 10 years ago. What do you expect? And that made me think, as normal human being, do we need to be afraid of aging? There are so many criticized around age, especially for female. So why don't we just seize the day, not try to seize yesterday, and we don't need to spend our times on judging about other people's age. So since it's Femmeuary, today I just want to recommend some books with great female representations in each life stages of women. So starting with baby girls. With baby girls, I just have one honorable mention. It is Sunny from a series of Unfortunate Events. I said it's a honorable mention. It's because it is a fantasy event and Sunny did some really peculiar things that I don't think she will represent like majority of baby girls. And also the book was written by Lemony Snicket, who is a male author, so it's only a honorable mention. But it's a really interesting series. If you want to read something relaxing, I do recommend those 13 books in the series. So moving on to girls, I want to introduce two girls from The Trouble with Ghosts and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. This is a historical fiction set in England in 1976, where the heat wave happened. The story was happened in a very small town where all the people know each other. And one day, Mrs. Crazy from the town suddenly disappeared, and no one knows where she went, and people even don't know if she's still alive or already dead. The two girls I mentioned is called Grace and Tilly, and they are about 9 or 8 years old, and they of course wanted to solve the mystery behind the disappearance of Mrs. Crazy. So reading them playing the little detective role is really interesting, especially different from other super smart children detectives. They still have so much things that they don't understand. But in the opposite, they wanted to understand everything. So you see the little confusions going around in their mind. And this reminded me of my own childhood, where there's a phase you thought you were clear about everything and the adults there just underappreciate you. And besides the mystery Grace and Tilly try to solve, they still have like every other things to worry about in their life. For example, they wanted to be more popular among their schoolmates, and also they want to have a better way to communicate with their parents and other friends. Overall, I think they behave as the exact way where a 8 or 9 years old girl will behave, and it's a very realistic representation. And I forgot to say that when they're trying to solve the mystery happened right now, they found themselves dig into another mystery happened 9 years ago. And also, you are not only going to have the perspective from Grace and Tilly, you're also getting the perspectives from other townspeople. So it's not that Grace and Tilly are the only voice you are hearing from. After we say goodbye to our childhood, we are of course moving on to our teenage life. Here I'm recommending another historical fiction. It is The Straits by Emily Beadle. This book was set in 1930s Australia, and we met a girl called Lily. Actually, when we met her, she's already in her elderly life, and we found out that she didn't speak to her best friend Eva for a long time, but we just don't know why. And there's an event coming up, made her to recall all the memories, how she met Eva and what happened next. We learned that Eva is the daughter of a very famous artist in Australia, and when Eva invited Lily in her life, Lily was immediately obsessed with their artistic lifestyle because she was coming from this normal, kind of boring family, so she wanted to experience something outstanding. And the story was mainly happened in Eva's parents' house. And Eva's parents invited a lot of people, mostly artists, and including Lily, to live with them. And they tried to build this utopia for artists. And we follow the friendship between Lily and Eva from their 11 or 12 years old to their young adult life. And it is in this stage you started to develop a lot of complicated thoughts in your mind, and also you started to take responsibilities to the things that you've done. I feel I'm strongly related to the friendship between them because I feel at some point I had the exactly same friendship with my best friend, where we care about each other and love each other so much, and we are the only person who can understand each other for 100%. But also since we are growing up, so we are constantly changing, so we have the thoughts and opinions on others' changings too. It is very interesting to read something so similar, but we have a better ending. We still talk to each other like all the time. And moving on to new adulthood, in this period of life, friendship is not the only thing that you focused on, and you have so many other things to worry about. In Chemistry by Vicky Wang, we met this graduate student who is studying chemistry apparently, and she gets to a point of life where she doesn't know if she wanted to continue her life in academia, and she's also not prepared when her boyfriend proposed to her. And at the same time, she got a lot of pressure from her family and also from the society. Her family wanted her to be this excellent scientist, but she just have limited interest in science. But from society, people think a 20-something years old girl should consider marriage, but she's not sure if it's the right thing to do. And she even got pressure from her boyfriend because he does everything really good. And I actually enjoy reading her being frustrated, being anxious, have a lot of things to pressure her, and being not that perfect as other people expected. Because it's so real. It's like the truth about new adulthood. It's not a period of time where you can live in downtown Manhattan and having coffee with your friends downstairs and having your best friends live across the hall. But it's about you have so many things to worry about. I have some problem with the Chinese American representation in the books though, although it's an own voice book, but I just don't believe that if a girl comes to the US from the age of 5 and didn't go back ever since, couldn't say turn off the lights and she have to say close the lights. It's just something I don't think is real. But if you want to take a walk in an anxious new adult's mind, and especially she's a female who's working in academia, I do recommend it. I think it's really realistic. And the next stage is our super long adulthood. And in this stage, many people choose to get married, and I'm recommending yet another historical fiction. It's Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebel. This book is set in Nigeria, where a man can have multiple wives, especially if they don't have children with their first wife. But for our two main characters, from the start of their marriage, they decided to form this one-on-one relationship. However, after 5 years, they still don't have any child. So pressure came from both sides of the family, where the man is forced to get a second wife. I feel like my recommendation is getting more depressed here, but I really love this book. You follow our female character doing all these things to save her marriage. From the beginning, she did have some confidence in life because she trusted her husband and they were in love. But after times, she just lost herself because all of the pressure, and she just so desperately wanted to have a baby. Reading her behaviors in the book is like, look at what you made me do. And you can see all the women's value are tied up to motherhood. And besides this is a fast-paced and full of twists and turns novel, and I really recommend it. And now let's go back to the topic that I mentioned from the beginning. Do we need to be afraid of aging? The answer is absolutely not. And here I actually wanted to mention about a book written by a male author. What? And it is Britt-Maire Was Here by Frederick Buckman. Britt-Maire is actually a character from his other book, My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, and I really disliked her when I first met her. But then I just understood all her behaviors because of the writing of the author. And she's just a lady who pays attention to the daily routines, and she's actually very kind, very warm, and care about every people around her. In Britt-Maire Was Here, we just followed her leaving the house that she lived in her entire life, and also finding a job when people are questioning her working ability because she just basically didn't work. And also, she moved to a new town and getting along with the new townspeople. I think that this book is a good representation because when we are getting older, we are still willing to learn new things, and we still want to meet new people, and also we are capable of doing everything that we want. I especially like to see the relationship between Britt-Maire and other young people in town, how they influenced each other. And reading about their interactive is very interesting. The book slowly reveals the reason that why Britt-Maire suddenly left home, and I think it's a beautiful story. And because I just recommend an elderly lady written by a male author, I feel like I have to recommend another elderly lady written by a female author, and this is our wonderful and amazing Mrs. Marple. Mrs. Marple is a well-known detective written by Agatha Christie, who is lived in a town called St. Mary Mead, and she overall solved over 20 crime cases. Agatha Christie said Mrs. Marple is inspired by some of her relatives and also old ladies that she met when she was a little girl in other town. Mrs. Marple is very smart, and she is good at seeing all the clues from conversations or observations, and also she likes to be the matchmaker when she's solving crime cases. Reading books from Agatha Christie is always enjoyable, and with Mrs. Marple in it, it's even better. So I recommend you Mrs. Marple if you want to read about a good detective story. And here, I'm almost done with my Women's Different Life Stages recommendations, but I have one book left. This is if you want to read a book that covers most of the life stages of a woman and have precise representations in each stages, and if you want to read a good historical fiction again, and I recommend you to read The Unseen World by Liz Moore. This is my favorite book in 2017, and I just love it so much. It's about a girl called Ada who is growing up with her single father in her father's computer science lab. And when Ada was a girl, she discovered that her father has Alzheimer's, so he's starting to lose some of his memories. But before that, he actually left Ada a huge puzzle about his life to solve. And I forgot to say, this novel was set in 1980s in Boston, but you also got some 1940s and some 2009. And you followed Ada when she was a small girl and attached to her father to she was a teenage girl trying to get into the world of her peers, and also to she is a strong and working hard adult woman. And like I said, every stages of Ada's life was mostly around the puzzle that her father left her. You can see confusions from the beginning to she's more and more understand about her father. I think this story is just purely beautiful, and you got all kind of realistic representations. And that's all the books that I recommend today. If you have heard any of the books that I mentioned, please let me know on the comment section down below. And do you have any recommendations about great female representations? Please let me know. And until next time, happy reading. Bye!